Right now, at this very moment, most homes in the world are 3 days away from a crisis. Not because of anything dramatic, not because of war or some Hollywood-style catastrophe, just 3 days. That's the average amount of emergency supplies sitting in a typical household according to FEMA, and the average power outage, it lasts between 1 and 4 days. Do the math, and the margin is razor thin. But here's what's even more surprising. When real emergencies hit, when hurricanes tear through cities, when ice storms knock out power for a week, when a pandemic empties store shelves overnight, the things that disappear first aren't freeze-dried survival meals or tactical flashlights. They're the boring stuff, the unremarkable, unglamorous, sitting in your pantry right now kind of stuff. And that is exactly what this video is about. Today, you're going to discover 18 ordinary household items, things so mundane you've probably never given them a second thought, that become absolutely indispensable the moment something goes wrong. Each one costs under $30. Each one serves at least 3 critical functions in a crisis, and together they can transform your home from vulnerable to quietly, powerfully resilient. Stay until the end, because we're going to tell you exactly which 3 items to grab first, and they'll cost you less than $25 combined. Welcome to Food Decider, the channel that turns everyday knowledge into real-world readiness. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It genuinely helps more people find content that could matter when it counts most. Now, let's get into it. When most people think about emergency preparedness, their minds jump straight to food. Stockpile canned goods, store water, get enough calories to survive. And yes, food matters. But here's what disaster response professionals have learned over and over again. In the first 72 hours of almost any crisis, it isn't starvation that brings people down, it's sanitation. Contaminated water, infected wounds, the rapid spread of illness through a household that no longer has running water, proper waste disposal, or access to a pharmacy. That's what hits first. And that's why the first group of items on this list are all about one thing: keeping your environment, your body, and your water supply clean and safe. The first item is something so common, so cheap, and so widely available that most people genuinely don't think twice about it: unscented household bleach. A single bottle of bleach sitting under your sink is, in a crisis, one of the most powerful tools you own. According to EPA guidance, just 6 to 8 drops of standard household bleach, we're talking a 6 to 8% sodium hypochlorite concentration, added to 1 gallon of water and left to sit for 30 minutes, will disinfect it for drinking. That means a questionable water source, a barrel of collected rainwater, even water from a stream can be made safe with something you can buy for under $3. But that's just the beginning. Bleach sanitizes surfaces, kills mold, and disinfects anything that might carry pathogens: cutting boards, countertops, buckets, tools. In a situation where illness spreads fast, this is your frontline defense. One important buying tip: only purchase unscented bleach with that 6 to 8% active concentration. Skip the splashless formulas and anything perfumed. And because bleach degrades by about 20% per year even when sealed, replace your bottle every 6 months and use the old one for regular cleaning. Nothing goes to waste. Now, right alongside bleach in the sanitation conversation is something you almost certainly have in your kitchen already: baking soda. Most people think of baking soda as a cooking ingredient or a fridge deodorizer, and it is. But in a crisis, baking soda becomes a multi-tool for personal hygiene and sanitation. Mixed with a little salt, it works as a functional emergency toothpaste. It scrubs cookware clean without soap. It neutralizes odors from waste containers, trash bags, and latrines. It soothes insect bites and minor skin irritations. It can even be used to suppress a small grease fire. Here's the kicker: baking soda stores almost indefinitely. A 6-box supply takes up barely any space, costs almost nothing, and will carry you through weeks of field sanitation without breaking a sweat. The third item in this sanitation foundation is white vinegar, and specifically the plain distilled variety in bulk gallon jugs. Vinegar's secret power is its ability to inhibit bacterial and mold growth. In a world where your refrigerator has stopped working, that matters enormously. A light rinse of produce in diluted vinegar can extend the shelf life of fruits and vegetables by several days, and in a prolonged outage, a few extra days of fresh food is not a small thing. Vinegar also cleans and disinfects surfaces, softens laundry when normal detergent runs out, and removes mineral buildup and odors from containers you might repurpose for water storage. 3 gallons stores indefinitely and handles an enormous range of household tasks. Next up is something slightly more specific but critically important: 70% isopropyl alcohol. Here's a fact that surprises most people. A 70% concentration of isopropyl alcohol is actually more effective as a disinfectant than a 90% or 99% solution. The reason is counterintuitive but scientifically sound. The higher concentration evaporates too quickly to fully penetrate and destroy bacterial cell walls. The 70% version lingers just long enough to do the job properly. Use it for skin disinfection before any wound care, for cleaning tools and surfaces, for sterilizing equipment. It also removes adhesive residue, cleans electronics, and in a true pinch can serve as an accelerant when you need to start a fire in wet conditions. Keep 2 bottles.
It's cheap, compact, and irreplaceable. Rounding out this first section is something that almost no emergency preparedness article ever mentions: a basic supply of over-the-counter medications. For around $25, you can stock a small supply of aspirin or ibuprofen for pain and fever, loperamide sold as Imodium for diarrhea, and a basic antihistamine like diphenhydramine for allergic reactions. That's it. That's the list. But think about what happens without those items during a crisis. Diarrhea from contaminated water or unfamiliar food can dehydrate someone dangerously fast. An allergic reaction without antihistamine can escalate rapidly. A fever left untreated weakens the body at exactly the moment it needs strength. These 3 categories of medication handle the vast majority of medical incidents that occur in the first weeks of a disruption. Rotate them every 2 years, store them in a labeled bag, and include the dosing instructions. Simple as that. So now your environment is clean, your water is safe, and your household can manage basic medical needs. That foundation matters more than almost anything else in the early days of an emergency. But the second challenge isn't sanitation, it's integrity. Keeping your shelter intact, your food preserved, and your supplies and belongings protected from water, weather, and damage. This is where a second group of completely unglamorous household items earns its place. Let's start with something that seems almost too basic to mention: heavy-duty contractor trash bags. Not regular kitchen trash bags, contractor bags, the kind used on construction sites. 55-gallon, 6 mil thickness. These bags are almost absurdly versatile in an emergency. They waterproof belongings during a flood. They serve as improvised rain ponchos when cut and worn. They line buckets to create sanitary waste systems. They work as vapor barriers, ground cloths, and emergency sleeping bag covers. They can be filled with leaves or crumpled paper and used as makeshift insulation. A single box of 20 takes up almost no space and costs under $15. Keep a box in your home and one in your car. Now, if contractor bags are the most versatile protective item on this list, duct tape is the most versatile repair item, and it isn't close. There is almost nothing duct tape cannot at least temporarily fix. Split plumbing? Tape it. Torn tarp? Tape it. Broken window seal letting in cold air? Tape it. Ripped clothing, broken pack strap, leaking container, cracked rain gutter, all of it, tape it. The only caveat is quality. Cheap duct tape will fail you at exactly the wrong moment. Invest in Gorilla Tape or another name brand heavy-duty version, and you'll have a repair tool that genuinely holds under stress. Keep at least 3 rolls, one at home, one in your car, one in whatever bag you'd grab if you had to leave quickly. Here's one that surprises people every single time: heavy-duty aluminum foil. Standard foil reflects up to 97% of radiant heat. That's not a marketing claim, it's physics. In winter, tape sheets of foil to the inside of your windows with the shiny side facing outward, and you'll noticeably reduce heat loss. In summer, face it outward and it deflects solar radiation, keeping rooms cooler without air conditioning. Beyond insulation, foil can be shaped into a functional cooking vessel over a fire or camp stove, fashioned into a makeshift funnel, used to sharpen scissors by folding several layers and cutting through repeatedly, or laid out in an open area as a reflective distress signal visible from a significant distance. 2 rolls of heavy-duty foil is all you need. They take up almost no space and serve more purposes than most dedicated camping gear. Salt is next, and it might be the single oldest emergency supply in human history. For thousands of years, before refrigeration existed, salt was how humanity kept food from rotting. That hasn't changed. Non-iodized canning salt, or kosher salt, draws moisture out of meat, fish, and vegetables through a process called curing, dramatically extending their shelf life without any electricity required. Beyond preservation, salt mixed with warm water creates a saline rinse for wounds that cleans without the sting of alcohol and is gentle enough for eye irrigation. It supports electrolyte balance during illness, heat, or heavy exertion, and salt lasts literally forever. It does not expire, degrade, or go bad under any normal storage conditions. Store 25 pounds of non-iodized canning salt for preservation tasks and keep a box of regular iodized table salt for cooking and medical use. The total cost is under $10. Now, for longer-term food storage, there's a 2-item combination that most people have never heard of, but that is genuinely remarkable in what it achieves: Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers. Here's the situation without them. A 50-pound bag of rice or dried beans stored in a regular container is vulnerable to moisture, oxygen degradation, and pests. Within a year or two, the quality declines significantly. With a properly sealed Mylar bag and an oxygen absorber inside it, that same rice or beans will remain nutritionally viable and pest-free for 25 to 30 years. That's not an exaggeration. It's the documented shelf life of Mylar-sealed dry goods. The process costs almost nothing. Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers together run about $15 to $20 for enough material to preserve 100 pounds of food. You seal them with a regular clothes iron. Label each bag with its contents and date. That's the entire process. For less than the cost of a restaurant meal, you can create a reserve of food that outlasts nearly any disruption imaginable. The final item in this section catches almost everyone off guard: ordinary plastic cling film. The same roll sitting in your kitchen drawer right now.
Most people know cling film as a food storage tool, but the UK's National Health Service formally recommends it as an emergency burn dressing, and for good reason. It's sterile from the roll, it doesn't stick to wounds the way fabric does, it protects damaged skin from air and contamination, and it can be wrapped snugly enough to stay in place until proper medical care is available. Beyond burns, layered cling film taped over drafty windows provides a surprisingly effective insulation barrier in cold weather, and it seals containers, protects documents, and waterproofs gear in ways that tape alone cannot. One 200 square foot roll is enough. Keep it in your first aid kit, not just your kitchen drawer. Here's something the survival gear industry doesn't want you to think too hard about. After 72 hours without power, without familiar routines, without the small comforts of normal daily life, people start to deteriorate psychologically. Studies confirm it. Boredom, isolation, and uncertainty combine into something that clouds judgment, wears down resolve, and makes rational decision-making much harder than it needs to be. The items in this final section address something that no tactical flashlight or freeze-dried meal ever can: the human need for warmth, comfort, light, and the feeling that things are, even in a small way, under control. Start with raw honey. Honey is the only food substance on Earth with a documented infinite shelf life. Archaeologists have found honey in 3,000-year-old Egyptian tombs, still perfectly preserved and edible. That alone makes it extraordinary. But honey also has clinically validated wound healing properties. Its natural hydrogen peroxide content and low moisture levels create an environment where bacteria cannot survive. Applied to minor burns, cuts, and skin infections, honey has been used medicinally for centuries and is supported by modern research. It soothes coughs and sore throats, and in the middle of a stressful, disorienting emergency, a spoonful of honey in hot water is a small, powerful act of normalcy that genuinely matters. Store one large 32-ounce jar. Make sure it's raw, real honey, not a blend or a product labeled honey flavored. Real honey needs no refrigeration and will outlast everything else in your pantry by decades. Now for light, and this one is simpler and cheaper than almost anyone expects: unscented tea light candles. You can buy a bag of 100 unscented tea lights for under $10. Each one burns for 4 to 5 hours. That's 400 to 500 hours of light from a single purchase. Grouped together in ceramic holders or placed in empty glass jars, a handful of tea lights can meaningfully warm a small bathroom or closet on a cold night. And beyond the practical light they provide, there is something deeply calming about candlelight in a dark, stressful situation. It slows people down. It signals safety. It maintains the feeling of a livable home rather than a survival scenario. Always use unscented varieties in enclosed spaces. Heavily perfumed candles cause headaches over time. Vaseline, standard unbranded petroleum jelly, is next, and it earns its place on this list in at least 4 distinct ways. First, it prevents chafing and cracked skin when hygiene routines are disrupted and water is scarce. Second, it protects minor wounds as a barrier ointment when proper bandaging materials run out. Third, it keeps lips and hands from drying and cracking in cold weather, a genuinely painful problem when you're already under stress. And fourth, this one surprises people every time, petroleum jelly saturated into a cotton ball creates one of the most effective improvised fire starters in existence. It burns for 4 to 5 minutes, even in damp, windy conditions. That's long enough to catch almost any kindling, no matter how reluctant. One large jar covers months of use across all these applications. Ziploc bags sound almost embarrassingly basic, but in a chaotic emergency, the ability to organize is the difference between a functioning kit and an unusable pile of stuff. Important documents go in a gallon bag, medications in a quart bag, fire-starting materials together, first aid supplies grouped by type, electronics sealed against moisture, food portioned and labeled. When stress is high and time is short, being able to reach into a bag and immediately find exactly what you need, dry, clean, and intact, is worth more than almost any piece of specialized equipment. Buy name brand bags only. Off-brand Ziplocs fail at their seals under real-world use. Stock one 50-count box in gallon, quart, and snack sizes. Dental floss belongs in every emergency kit, and not for dental hygiene, though that matters too. Nylon monofilament floss is surprisingly strong cordage. It repairs clothing, secures splints, lashes gear together, ties down tarps, and works as functional fishing line in a genuine survival situation. Braid 3 strands together and the tensile strength increases dramatically. It's lightweight, compact, and costs almost nothing. 3 spools, one at home, one in a bag, and one in the car, is the right amount. Safety pins are perhaps the single highest utility per weight item in existence. Military field kits have included them for over a century, and the reason is simple. They solve an enormous range of problems at essentially zero cost and zero weight. A box of 50 assorted safety pins costing a couple of dollars can repair torn clothing, secure improvised bandages, replace broken zippers, mark trail intersections, serve as makeshift fishing hooks in a genuine survival situation, and fix gear failures of a dozen different kinds. This is the sort of item where you never know you need it until the moment you desperately do, and at that moment you are incredibly glad it's there.
Final item on this list is the one that most directly connects you to the world outside your walls when every other communication channel has failed: an emergency hand crank or battery-powered radio. When a major storm or power outage hits, cell towers are often among the first things to go down or become overwhelmed. Phone batteries die, internet service drops out, and suddenly the most dangerous thing in an emergency, more dangerous than hunger, more dangerous than the cold, is not knowing what's happening, not knowing whether the situation is improving or worsening, not knowing whether an evacuation order has been issued or a shelter has opened nearby, or whether the water supply has been declared unsafe. A hand crank emergency radio costs between $25 and $30, requires no batteries when hand cranked, and receives NOAA weather broadcasts and emergency alert system signals. Models like the Midland ER310 or the Kaido KA500 are simple, proven, and widely available. Information is a survival resource, just like food and water. This device ensures you always have it. Here's where we come full circle. Remember that statistic from the very beginning? The average household has less than 3 days of emergency supplies? Every single item on this list pushes that window wider, and together, for somewhere between $100 and $120, less than most people spend in a single weekend, these 18 items give you the ability to purify and store water, preserve food for decades, manage basic medical needs, repair shelter and clothing, maintain sanitation without running water, and stay informed when every other channel is dark. That's not prepping in the bunker and bug out bag sense. That's just being a prepared adult in an unpredictable world. If you're not sure where to start, here's the answer. On your very next shopping trip, pick up unscented bleach, a box of contractor trash bags, and a bag of salt. You'll spend under $25, and you'll be ahead of the vast majority of households in your neighborhood before you even get home. Then, over the following weeks, add a few more items each time. Build it slowly. Build it without pressure.
because preparedness isn't a single dramatic act, it's a series of small, sensible ones. If this video gave you something useful, please give it a like and subscribe to Food Decider for more content that turns ordinary knowledge into real-world capability. Our next video goes deeper into long-term food storage, and trust us, there are a few things in that one that will genuinely surprise you. Stay ready. We'll see you there.